We call it user-generated content. We all hate that title because we're not users, we don't generate it, and it's not content. But anyway, we call it that for short. So in that realm, there's that idea of there are kind of stages of interactivity. The first is we allow you to talk about our stories.
Yeah.
The second is please give us stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
The third, I believe, is no, I own my own space. I have my own blog. What's your relationship to me? Mm-hmm. Now you have started what I think is God's work here in Washington Post of doing a local blog ad network where you're selling ads for the bloggers.
Right.
They still own their space. It's theirs, and you have a commercial relationship to support them.
Right.
God bless you. Good work. So the question I have is, how is it working? What are the lessons so far? I know it's brand new, but talk about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's early days, but we think, obviously we're very good, as most big media companies are, at selling advertising on a large scale. But obviously with search ads and so forth, there's now an opportunity to also serve ads against local content and single bloggers and so forth, and we want to be part of that, and we think that is the way actually financially, I think, to support the continuing good reporting on a local level that, as you know, is increasingly going away as quality newspapers fold around the country. So it's obviously, I think we're looking at it as a commercial opportunity, but we're also looking at it as a way to create a new business model that will actually continue to support good, solid reporting around the country.
And put you in the middle of the conversation, too. Yeah. You've done amazing work at, especially Washington Post, both online and giving the print people cameras. When I showed the video that you've done versus the New York Times to my students at the City University of New York, they preferred yours because yours was a little bit, frankly, rougher, a little closer to the source, a little less polished and produced. What do you see as the future for video and news? Is it a distraction to a lot of reporters? Are they getting into it? Is it an ego thing? Is it a better way to report? Is there better revenue? Talk about the prospects for video from print organizations.
Well, I think it's the great next frontier, and we have, as you say, I think the WashingtonPost.com has been a pioneer. Travis Fox, a full-time video blogger, has been doing it for a while for us, just won the first online Emmy. We're very excited about that. But I think you have to realize that video on the web is different from, television video. I mean, I think it's the reason why, even though in some ways television has a head start as we go forward in this new area, I think in some ways they're held back by their assumptions about the production values that are needed and about what really works on TV, which is not necessarily the thing that works online. I think that editing is key. It doesn't have to be slickly produced, but I think something that's well edited, I think, is very important. And I think content is key. I think that when people, I think what YouTube shows and what the proliferation of video on the web shows is, if it's interesting, if the content is interesting, people will watch it. So what we've got to do is figure out, I think, a low-cost model to producing good, well-edited video about as much, really interesting content as we can across all of our sites. And we're looking both at doing more of that on our existing sites, but also looking at possibly some new ventures and some new spaces, which will really be much more focused around web video.
Sticking around Washington, or the world is your oyster?
We are always looking at both. I mean, obviously, we want to own the Washington market, online as the Post has in newspapers. But with Slate now, and actually 2/3 of the Post.com's audience is now national. So we think there are some real opportunities for doing some things nationally as well.
If you were going to put a panel together with all kinds of newspaper mockers and magazine mockers, what would you want the main message to them to be from that event?
Well, first of all, I think in print, it was always the case that you had to have people, not only editors but owners, who had a passion for the mission of journalism. And I think you're going to need that online too. I think people who are looking at just as a commercial prospect and just to make the maximum amount of money aren't necessarily going to succeed in the long run. But I think there is an opportunity, as there has been in print, for people who are willing to invest in quality, I think to succeed. But look, I think that obviously we're in a period now where, from an investor point of view, if you're a public company, there's a real skepticism about the future of newspaper newspaper business. We're lucky at the Post because we have other sources of revenue. Our Kaplan division, is making a lot of money, and that allows us to be a little bit more patient than some of the companies that you now see that are being broken up. But I think one big issue, I think, for the industry as a whole is there is a lot of duplication of effort. When if you were coming from another planet and looking at the world of journalism, you'd say that there 60%, 70% of all the content that everybody's producing is also being produced several other places at the same time without a lot of difference. So I think the future for journalism, I think, is for whether it's in print or online, everybody figuring out where they add value. And I think the people who do that and do it well, I think, will have a bright future.
Well said. Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Great to be.
Thanks, Jeff.